Yeah, just press the button. Give me 5 seconds. You're good. You're live.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
All righty. Let's go ahead and get started. This is Walter Alcorn. I'm chair of the NVTC WMATA Committee. Good morning and welcome to our all virtual December 9th NVTC WMATA Committee meeting. I'd like to note for the record, we're getting started at 9:05 a.m. And thanks to some very helpful changes to Virginia's public meeting rules, we can do this meeting 100% virtually today. And our NVTC staff and we have followed all required policies and procedures to ensure we're in compliance with these applicable public meeting laws. So we are live streaming this meeting, and it'll allow our listening audience to be able to watch through YouTube Live. So if the live stream transmission fails, we would ask anyone who's watching to email support@novatransit.org and flag any problems. NVTC staff are monitoring this email account throughout the meeting. And I'd like to remind everybody to mute themselves if you're not speaking and to use the raise hand function, which I think we've all gotten pretty good at by this point, after presentation for questions. So I'd now ask Alan to call the roll and identify commissioners and NVTC staff present on the call. And also I would note we do have some distinguished guests here today, but Alan, go ahead and call the roll.
All right, thank you, Chair Alcorn. Please respond here when you hear your name. Chair Alcorn.
Here.
Mr. Aguirre. Mr. DeFerente.
Here.
Mr. Letourneau.
Matt had a meeting that popped up at 9. So
all right. Mr. Meyer.
Here.
Mr. Smedberg.
Present.
Mr. Snyder. All right, we do have a quorum. As a reminder, we do encourage all of our commissioners to participate in our committee meetings. I don't see that we have any other NVTC commissioners at the moment. We also do have a distinguished guest. Loudoun County Board Chair Phyllis Randall has joined us this morning to hear the presentation. So welcome, Chair Randall.
Thank you.
There's any other elected officials on here. So now I'm going to go through the list of NVTC and Metro staff for the benefit of the listening public. We have Executive Director Kate Mattice, Directors of Programs and Policy Alan Fine, that's myself, Program Analyst Renetta Zach Williams, IT Manager Melissa Walker, Communications Manager Matt Friedman. Also from Metro, we have joining us this morning Randy Clark, the General Manager and CEO of Metro, Strategic Transformation Project Manager Kimberly Feldbauer, I hope I said your last name correctly, Managing Director of Government Relations Regina Sullivan, Virginia Government Relations Officer Greg Potts. So that's all. I'll turn back over to you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you very much, Alan. So let's do our first item on the agenda. This is approval of the October 20th NVTC WMATA Committee meeting summary. So just would ask if any committee members have any changes to that summary. Okay, hearing none, we'll assume that summary is approved. So now let's get into the main item for today's meeting. And this is the draft WMATA Strategic Transformation Plan. So as I think we all know, Metro is emerging from the pandemic and doing so on an excellent path that we're going in the right direction now. And there is, however, out there in the rest of the world, new transportation and commuting realities. So Metro is embracing this with a strategic transformation plan that is intended to set a clear path for Metro over the coming years. So it's also important to note that this strategic planning effort is a condition of Virginia's continued dedicated capital funding for Metro. So currently Metro is briefing elected leaders across the region on the plan, and we're happy to welcome the Metro team to brief the committee and other distinguished guests here this morning. So this is really the only item on our agenda. So we should have some time for questions, a little bit of discussion afterwards. Kimberly Feldbauer is here, as Alan mentioned, but we also have Randy Clark. So Randy, actually, I'll turn it over to you first, and then you can turn it over to Kimberly for the presentation. But welcome, Randy, to our WMATA committee meeting today.
Great. Thank you, Chair. Appreciate you having us today and appreciate you all making your time available and doing a meeting. I know a lot of you are very, very busy. So another WMATA topic is challenging for you to fit in, but thank you for doing that. I also want to recognize, I see Chair Smedberg on the call. Obviously, Board Member Letourneau couldn't be there here today, and Supervisor Alcorn, you are a board alternate. So I really want to recognize the board to start off with publicly. It's been really great personally, about 5 months, well, 4 months, give or take days, working with the staff and the board. And I will say there's a lot going on. There's no question about that. But the relationship with the board, I feel, is just really positive, collaborative. I appreciate how much we're all focused on the customers, our community, and really rebuilding Metro and moving us all forward. So it is really appreciated. I will say the board too is putting in a lot of extra hours, and I joked with them at the board meeting yesterday. Those are hours that are unpaid, so we're clearly not paying the board members enough for the amount of extra time that they are working. But that shouldn't go unnoticed in the public. Yesterday's meeting alone was about a 7-hour process for board members. So it was a lot of time is being committed, and we appreciate it. One of the things that I'm really focused on here as the opportunity and privilege to be the general manager is something that I think for a long time people have really wanted Metro to embrace a little bit more of this concept of transparency and regional collaboration. And it's not to say that didn't happen, but I think to this next level. And this strategic transformation plan is probably a great symbol of that. I think we're doing it in other ways as well. Our bus network redesign that we're working with a lot of you all and other members of the region with. Obviously, we have public safety concerns in the region, and we've had a couple incidents this week, and we're working with all of our partners on those type of issues. We just had this amazing Silver Line opening that many of you were in attendance on, and it's incredible. And I know ridership in Ashburn and Dulles, et cetera, are already doing well. And that was a very regional thing. So there's a lot of good stuff that we're leading into the partnership, and I hope that you're finding that we are truly trying to be a good partner, not just say it. And we're going to keep working on that as well. The strategic transformation plan. When I got here, one of the things I talked to the board initially, I think I even brought it up in the interview process, was I feel like Metro does so many things, and the reality is we touch every component of life, right? Not just transportation. We touch concerns about equity and climate and public safety and homelessness and housing and land use policy. We really do touch everything. And what I think Metro needed is, quite frankly, a little bit of a North Star that says, on paper, what are we all truly focusing on? Not just kind of, we kind of live rush hour to rush hour sometimes. And I'm trying to get us a little more focused on what 5 years looks like. And it's not just internally from, every employer, from a bus operator to a member of senior staff and the board looking at the same kind of goals and objectives, but also the region. So you all as our partners can have a good understanding of the roadmap ahead as well. So participating and helping us understand that roadmap, and then we're all locked in to say, let's as a team work on execution. So a lot of times, I just want to really bring back the basics, is just, work a plan, build a plan, work the plan. Kind of real simple stuff in a lot of ways. And I think the simpler we make Metro, the better it actually works. Simple also means it's safer. So that's kind of where we're focused on with this North Star plan. Kimmy Feldbauer has been our lead on this, and she is going to kind of go into details and how this draft came about. But more importantly, once we should walk through it, we want your input. And it's not the only time we want to talk about it. We're actually going to do some public hearings and other pieces. It's really going to be about our values. And then a lot of times I think people conflate an actual project or initiative with a goal. And we want to get people focused. There's goals, and then there's a bunch of ways that you reach those goals. So a good example could be, our goal needs to be focused, if you want to have a climate and sustainability around that. And electric buses could be an effect, a product to help effectuate that goal. The goal is not to have electric buses. The goal is to have better impact in our environment and be more sustainable long-term, and measure greenhouse gas emissions and things of that nature. And electric buses is one way to get there. And I just use that as an example, obviously. The other thing I just want to mention, hand it over to Kimmy, is 5 years is not the future of Metro. We also have a big future ahead that in a lot of ways is unfunded. So we just did the FY24 budget first rollout with the board yesterday. We'll be looking for all your input on that as well. Few months to go on that process, and we've kind of pulled out every tool in the toolbox to kind of have areas to close the FY24 budget. But after that, I am trying to say it pretty publicly, that I don't want to say that, maybe I'll just say it straight up. The gig is up in that way. We need to really be thoughtful on what we're going to do for fiscal year 25 going forward. The federal relief money that our delegation worked so hard to secure will be used up. This is a struggle not just for Metro, it's across the transit industry, especially the larger systems. So we are going to have over $500-600 million deficit in FY25. And as those deficits grow on the operating side, we are also going to get about FY29, FY30, probably FY30, where our capital numbers for all the secured funding in FY18, 2018 that happened, will actually only allow financing, and then the capital projects actually start going down. So there's a lot of stuff we've all talked about running service today that we can't afford in FY25 moving forward. But there's all these things. Yesterday we talked about the Roslyn crossing. We eventually got to solve that problem. We want to upgrade our signaling system to run much safer, more frequent trains all over the network. A lot of us want to move to platform screen doors so we can have the safest system and be, that state-of-the-art modern system you'd see in Asia or Europe. We want, again, if we go all zero emission vehicles, we don't have enough money to do all that. Therefore, the facilities to support all those things. Let alone, Supervisor Alcorn, we've talked about better net regional, maybe rail and BRT connectivity, especially in fast growing places like Loudon and Fairfax and how they fit into the whole network. So there's a wish list, and I don't mean wish like nice to have, wish as in the region we want to be, that we are also building kind of a secondary document that's kind of going to be more like the Metro we need. And it's going to start framing up these larger initiatives that are unfunded to kind of drive the conversation as well about what we all want to be. But they kind of play together. So one is, how do we get to the basics, really organize this place for the next 5 years, be successful, be transparent, be data-driven, work with our partners, which sets us up for a future of what the next 30, 40 years after that look like. So that was my intro, sir. So I'm going to hand this over to Kimmy Feldbauer. Kimmy has done a fantastic job. She's interacted with some of you already. Appreciate the time you've given her, but she's going to go through this. And again, even if you have no really super detailed things today, think about it, get back to us. I want this document. I know Paul and the board all do too. We want a document that we all feel part of, that we can all say the next few years, this is what we are doing as a team, because this is a team sport, all of us. Metro success is your success is our success. And it's we really need to be thoughtful that way. So with that, Kimmy, maybe, and I'm going to just exit the chair and move and go over here, but Kimmy will take it from here. So thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Doing the shuffle, musical chairs. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Okay, let me share screen here. Oh, I think you might need to make me an owner or a presenter to be able to share the screen on Zoom. Oh, there it is now. Thank you.
We've been doing this about 2.5 years. We're still figuring it out.
I know. I say that every day. Okay. Do you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for that kind introduction, and thank you for making time for us this morning. I know that it's been a shuffle of calendars to find time for this really busy group, but it's really an honor to get to come and spend the morning and talk about the strategic transformation plan here at Metro. We're excited to share with you the development of Metro's strategic plan. Like Randy said, we've been working hand in hand with the board, our staff, our customers to make sure that this plan is really representative of our community, of the region, to really set the stage for where Metro wants to be and where we're going to go. The strategic transformation plan, like Randy mentioned, is to really guide long-term strategy, but also day-to-day decision-making of Metro over the next 5+ years, to try to get away from the whack-a-mole and really be concentrated and in a concerted effort with everybody knows their role at Metro, everyone in the community knows their part, and we're working together to make Metro the best. So, through community, board, staff input, we're starting to shape a robust customer-centric strategic plan. We've conducted surveys with both our customers, with our staff, to really get a baseline of overall satisfaction, looking at performance data. Oh, sorry, I thought you were saying something. Looking at performance data to help us be more transparent, see how we can refine that and share that with the public, whether it's through public-facing dashboards, but ultimately to guide decision-making and how we deliver better service. Looking at social media data, recognizing that Twitter, Instagram can be somewhat of an echo chamber. It's also really important for us to understand the digital sentiment of the community. Conducted interviews across the enterprise, including all of our board members and also frontline staff, our janitorial staff, our data analysts, planners, you name it. We did a really hefty job of making sure we had a good sample of the entire organization. Several community forums, the general manager and other senior staff were out at bus stops, station platforms, talking to our customers in their journey in the moment, understanding what their experience with Metro is like, what their tenure with Metro is like, and what would be better for them. We've conducted several workshops with the senior staff and our board of directors separately, but most importantly, the last couple have been together to really roll up our sleeves and develop the framework for this plan that is shaping with input from all of the data that we've collected. Also looking at prior studies and reports and ongoing staff forums, from all staff town halls, doing a roadshow out to all of the various Metro facilities, talking to staff, and also day-to-day department meetings. So like Randy said, this is our North Star. So together with the board, identifying the mission, which is your Metro, connecting you to possibilities, the vision, region's trusted way to move more people safely and sustainably. And then with that data that we collected and the themes that were evolving helped us develop these 4 goals that we'll aim to achieve. But at the foundation of it all is our core values. And so Metro is safe. Everything that we do at Metro is about safety. We're equity focused, we're innovative, we're ethical, and we're customer centric, because at the end of the day, we're serving our customers and serving our community. Community and stakeholder engagement has been a really important part of this. We want this to be an active participation effort with our customers, with you all, our really important stakeholders, elected officials, our funding partners, jurisdictional partners, and our staff and board. And so back in the summer when we kicked off this effort was when we, really just doing a lot of listening sessions. We solicited the surveys, conducted interviews, and then now we're starting to play back those themes and gain feedback. So we're sharing the emerging plan, sharing our goals, our draft list of initiatives and metrics, of course, to one, be transparent, but also, again, we really want this active participation and input from you all to make sure that we're capturing what we heard back in August and September, and that this is truly a document that represents the region. In January, we hope to come back with a finalized plan to the board for authorization of a public hearing. The timing was great. We kicked off this effort, Randy and myself also, being the new kids, not realizing that we were required to do a public hearing in Virginia. But it was perfect timing. And so we're really excited to get to do that as part of this process. So we'll have that formal process in early February, continue to collect feedback. And then once that is all incorporated into a final plan, we'll come back to the board at the end of February with a proposed plan for adoption. And then this is not a plan that's going to sit on the shelf for the next 3 to 5 years. It's really going to be a living document and an iterative process with you all, with our customers, with our staff, to make sure, one, that we are identifying ways that we can measure and report on our progress against the plan, but also that we're being really transparent in how we do that. So whether it's coming up with different online dashboards, different reports, and the way that we had a report out at board meetings. And so through all of the key data points that we saw through our surveys, through our interviews, through conversations, and our one-on-one interviews and conversations around the region, all of that, those themes emerged into these 4 goals. So service excellence, we heard from our customers and from the community that ultimately they want safe, reliable, convenient, enjoyable service. We realize that we're critical in the connectivity of the region, and so designing transit service to move more people and connect a growing region is an important goal for Metro. Sustainability, we're looking at that through 2 domains, fiscally sustainable and also environmentally sustainable. So managing our resources responsibly to achieve a sustainable operating capital environmental model is really critical to the success of Metro. And then, of course, talented teams. Without a strong team and strong staff at Metro, we cannot deliver good service. So we want to make sure that we're an employer that is attracting, retaining, and developing our top talent, where individuals feel valued, where they feel supported, and they're proud of their contributions at Metro. This is a slide that you saw on the board yesterday, or we're excited to, once we started taking a look back and seeing the engagement that we've done, feeling really good about the intent through this plan. And so just through this slide in there, it wasn't in the one that we sent over last week or a couple days ago, but the customer surveys, we've had over 2,600 responses across all modes. We've conducted over 60 interviews with board and staff. At the staff survey that we administered to the entire organization, we had almost 3,500 responses, which is really big from a statistics perspective. Getting that response rate is pretty high. And then multiple community engagement meetings with Metro leadership, multiple staff town halls where we've met with thousands of staff across the entire organization. We're on the stakeholder meeting roadshow, and that's been really great, especially for me, new to the region, and really getting to know all the people that make Metro successful around the region and contribute to what's so great about being here and working here. And so we're over 20 meetings with government partners, business leaders, advisory committees, and advocates. And then again, those workshops that we have multiple collaborative sessions with our board and our senior executive team. And so I know I always say this slide makes me cringe because it's so many words on the screen and the number 1 rule of what not to do. But we think it's really important to share how we're going to measure our progress. And so it's really important that we identify metrics and targets that make sense and that are digestible to not only our internal staff, but our external stakeholders and customers. We want the system to be easy to use. We want people to know when their bus or train is coming, and they want to know what the reliability is. And so figuring out ways that we can be more communicative, we can be more transparent. This is how we're starting to shape that process. And so this is not an exhaustive list of metrics. And when we come back with a final plan, we'll have those targets figured out. We're working really hard with our data analytics team and our regional partners. And so as you are starting to think about the feedback that you're going to give, I'd love for you to think about this page. For instance, the service excellence goal, we'll meet that goal, and that goal will be met when customer satisfaction across all modes is increased. But how do we increase that satisfaction? So we're looking at what we already measure, but also what we can share with folks, which is, on-time performance. What's the missed Metro access trips? Like having that kind of data tells us internally where we need to put more energy, but it also can help our customers have a better journey. They can have more information to help plan their day, plan their routes to work or to pick up their kids. And that's really important to our customers. So with that in mind, that's kind of how I'd like you to frame up this slide and look through these metrics. And so we'll come back to this one in a little bit. So again, apologies that it's so much text, but hopefully enough context. And then how are we going to meet those metrics, and how are we going to use develop initiatives that will achieve the goals and objectives that we've laid forth in this plan? And so again, we've organized it by each goal, and then have some draft initiatives that will help us achieve that. This is an exhaustive list, is not an exhaustive list, but for service excellence, delivering good service, we need to repair and modernize our infrastructure equipment to be a world-class transit organization. Talented teams, having a strategic workforce plan will help us have the best staff and a really strong team to deliver the best service for our customers. Regional opportunity and partnership, like Randy said, we've kicked off Better Bus Network redesign. I would argue that project is touching on almost all of our goals and objectives, but also starting to look at options for Metro Rail service optimization. So as we are coming out of the pandemic, and Chair, you mentioned this, mobility patterns are different than they ever have been before. People's needs are different than they ever have been before. And so how can we respond to that as a service to the region and to the community? And so maximizing our infrastructure, both of our brain trust infrastructure, but our physical transportation infrastructure to better deliver service for the region. And then sustainability, again, both from the financial domain and the environmental domain, looking at dedicated, ongoing regional, non-fare, non-subsidy funding streams. We have the looming financial issues here at Metro. So it's, this is bold, but this is, something that we all need to roll up our sleeves and work together to find a solution. And then also decarbonizing Metro. We acknowledge and are up for the challenge. We know that we are key to meeting the region's sustainability goals. And so how can we do that? How can we play our part in contribution to the region? So in conclusion, this is, if you want to take one slide away, this is our kind of our one pager that just reminds you what the values that we've identified, our mission, vision, goals, objectives, and then the meat of it as, really the metrics that we're identifying and targets that we want to reach. Board reporting, also like the cadence of our reporting, some of these metrics we'll be able to report out daily, some will be weekly, some will be monthly at our board meetings, or annually. So we'll be really transparent in how we do that, and also open to feedback on how we do so. And then also wanted to share here just some upcoming milestones. We had the press release, and this is our website launched earlier this week. We were really excited to present this for the first time in public session to the board yesterday. We have ongoing community partner and stakeholder engagement. So if there are other groups that you think we should be talking to, or folks that we need to be talking to, happy to set up those meetings. We have a public meeting progress update, which is similar to this presentation, next week. And then we'll come back in February for a public hearing, and then propose for adoption in February. So with that, I'll keep sharing just in case we want to go back to any of the other slides, but we'll open the floor for some comments or questions. We'd love to hear.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. Just have a couple of quick comments and observations, and then I'll turn it over to Chair Randall, who has her hand up. Thank you for following directions there and doing that. First of all, I very much like the process here, and I like the focus on metrics. I do want to make sure, and I think you're doing the right things by having these meetings, that the core values, which I think are excellent core values, make sure that those are actually reflected in the goals, and then ultimately in the metrics. Looks like those are being flushed out a little bit more. I would just flag the equity core value and just make sure that it is reflected throughout the goals and metrics. There might be a little bit more work and attention that needs to be done on that. The other piece that I would just say on the metrics, again, it looks great, but I would urge a little bit of caution about creating metrics that are beyond the ability of WMATA to achieve them, particularly as it relates to land use. Obviously, those are items that are done in partnership with the jurisdictions, but there might be a way of approaching that with metrics where actually it is things that Metro can do, and then perhaps some metrics that have to be done in partnership, and then making sure that that's clear. I don't want you to set anything up that can't be done because it's outside of your control. So, but overall, great job. I do like it. Chair Randall, going to turn it over to you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Alcorn. And thank you all for letting me be here today. This is a very important meeting, very interesting meeting. I attended the Washington Board of Trade meeting yesterday, and their keynote speaker was Governor Hogan, Governor of Maryland. And one of the things that he highlighted as a success of his tenure as governor is making sure that Maryland had a dedicated source of revenue that went to Metro. That was his number one, belief of why Metro has been successful. And of course, I can't imagine anyone who doesn't realize how important Metro is to the region. I think if there's a place that Metro has been challenged is giving the message out both to the General Assembly, but also to our federal delegation of the fiscal impact of Metro and the damage if Metro were to, in Virginia, were to and somehow falter. There is a belief in our General Assembly in Virginia that Metro is about just Northern Virginia, versus the acknowledgement that Metro is moving a workforce that financially sustains and supports all of Virginia. And in fact, in some ways, because we move the federal government workforce, is extremely important to the country. Mm-hmm. So of all the things we've listed, and these are fantastic metrics, wonderful goals, and all unachievable if we don't have a sustainable source of revenue. And so my question would be is, how can we help? How do we help at the county level? How do we help tell the story of how important Metro is to Virginia and to the country, and try to move toward a sustainable source of revenue, and Metro no longer be seen as a Northern Virginia transportation system, but one that is important to the Commonwealth and the country? Because without that sustainable source of revenue, these amazing metrics and goals that you've set out, that I fully support, just do not come to fruition. Thanks so much, Mr. Alcorn.
Thank you, Chair Randall. Kimberly, I don't know if you want to address any of those before we go to the next question, but
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had the answer. I think that we probably would be in a different situation if we knew what the answer was. I think that I appreciate both you and Chair Alcorn's sentiment of just I think that we need to find a solution together. I think we are on staff side at Metro, or we're starting to think about ways that we can develop different packages, or being strategic that way. But yes, I think it's going to be a larger conversation and a lot of people around the table to identify that solution. But I think if nothing else, we appreciate what you're.
My actual question was, how can we help?
Right. Yes.
That,
I think that.
When you develop a solution, use us, use local.
That's what I'm saying. The we is you. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, us on this call, and the collective we will start to have those conversations.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Randall. And before we go to the next elected official, Ms. Mattice, did you want to jump in real quick on that particular item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And in fact, it's one of these things we're excited to be updating right now. Our study that is quantifying the economic value of Metro, as well as the other transit systems to the Commonwealth of Virginia. So I did not give you that question, Chair Randall, but it's actually something we're actively working on right now. We did some work prior to the dedicated capital funding activity, where we identified that about $600 million a year are generated in sales and income taxes that are basically available to the entire Commonwealth of Virginia. So we're in the process right now of updating that study. And so we are looking forward to that being a part of the conversation in the new year.
Great, thank you both very much. Ms. Garvey and then Mr. De Ferente.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alcorn. I really appreciate also, I'll echo Chair Randall's thanks for letting us join in here this morning. And thank you all for being here. This is great to see the thought going into it. Just to finish up a little bit on the last point that Chair Randall brought up, I absolutely agree. I think one of the things we have to remember is that at least in Virginia, I suspect in Maryland, we are asking people to approve funding for Metro, and it's a whole lot of funding. And these are people who may probably have never ridden Metro, maybe hardly ever even been to Northern Virginia. And it's really hard for people to understand what it means and how it works. I mean, you can do all of the data you want, which is really important, but what really I think affects people are their experiences. And I think we need to find a way to allow people who really don't experience Metro and maybe never have to have that experience. And I think they will understand things a little bit better. So I totally agree that's a huge issue that we have. And then I just on a sort of a small point, I really appreciate Mr. Clark, when you were trying to keep elected officials from getting too far down in the weeds and staying up in the principles. And one of the issues being electrification of buses. And which we've talked about a lot in NVTC. And I really appreciate you talking about it as decarbonization of Metro. That is really good. Here in Arlington, we're just starting to kind of really look at, should we buy battery operated buses, or wait a minute, what about hydrocarbon? Yeah, I think that's what you call it. Hydrogen, that's what it is. Hydrogen, get rid of the hydrocarbons. Anyway, hydrogen might be the way to go rather than electric. There are a whole lot of things there to consider. And then now we're starting to produce our own green natural gas, which should be online by 2027. And we could be funding our current compressed natural gas fleet with renewable green gas that we're producing here. And that actually even takes more hydrocarbons and things out of the atmosphere than does, because it pulls it out rather than just being zero. So I've kind of talked a lot, but I'm starting to realize, I don't know about others of my colleagues here, probably way ahead of me, but I'm starting to realize how complex the issue is, and that decarbonizing is probably really the way to talk about it, because there are a lot of ways to do it. And we maybe shouldn't jump on electrification right now without really fully exploring other things, because these are huge generational investments. And thank you. That's it.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for your comments. And you're right. Yes, like while electrification is one component of decarbonizing Metro, it's a whole program, a whole lot of efforts that we can do to contribute to decarbonizing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garvey. Mr. De Ferente.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for the presentation. I agree with colleagues who shared thoughts. To this point, I was trying to work through the metrics and think about the 4 areas. And Mr. Alcorn, your thoughts kind of resonated, and I wonder if it's possible to if you look at the metrics under regional opportunity and partnership, there are slightly fewer, which makes sense. I love the service excellence. I think it should be the lead. But I wonder if there is a metric possible around economic impact that meets the point that you made, Walter, that land use decisions are not controlled by Metro in every case, that localities have a big role. So just a question if there's a metric there. And I also wonder if there's an equity metric there. There ought to be a way to share how vital bus service is and rail service is to the first responders. We ought to not, even though the pandemic is changing, we ought to remember how critical bus is. And I wonder if there's a metric along that lines. And then I was trying to think about sort of when I lived in Austin in 2011 and 12, I thought Austin's system was headed for a nightmare. And, there was a huge bond decision that involved massive investment that Randy and you may have been involved with that changed the narrative. And there was a long period where General Manager Wiedefeld you talked with leaders and they sort of said, we're addressing the big hard problems. And I to the ethical value, I wonder if there's something that's like a survey, not social media, because exclusively because, the same 6 people that troll me on Twitter are going to keep doing that for the next 6-8 years. But I wonder if there's some sort of survey or stakeholder effort that could be done, not quarterly, that could sort of get to that ethical question of and get to that, is Metro addressing the hard challenges? And so that's a pretty nebulous one, but I wanted to try and give some suggestions to the one area of the 4 that seems to have a little fewer in metrics, which makes sense because it's really hard to measure partnerships like that. So.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. DeFerenti. Kimberly, any thoughts on that right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he hit it exactly. I think this is, very draft. And as we're starting to, think through the particulars, these are, some of them are pretty tangible and some are, how do we measure it without being super subjective about it? But yeah, working with our partners. So I would, invite you, Mr. DeFerenti, to, if you have a 3 a.m. thought, 2 days from now, you're like, oh, okay, that's it. Please, we'll send this, you have it, but you also have our contact information. And this also isn't the first time we're going to talk to you about this, but would love to, set up even more conversations if you want to roll up your sleeves and we can figure out how to flesh that list out a bit more.
Sounds great. I will try to actually take a little responsibility. I will probably email Greg Potts, and then if he could forward it.
He knows where to find me.
Sounds good.
All right, very good. Thank you. Wanted to see, do any committee members have other questions or comments at this point? Okay, well, before we wrap up, Mr. Smedberg, I did want to give a shout out to you. Thank you for your service on the WMATA board, your chairmanship on the WMATA board, everything you've done with NVTC in the region. Thank you very much. I know you get paid the big bucks to do this. So it really is. Oh, and just in time, Mr. Letourneau.
No, I've been here. I was just going to echo what you said about Paul.
Okay. Well,
I mean, Walter, those are very kind words. Thank you for that. And, I want to say this is the first, I think, real earnest attempt at having a strategic plan for WMATA. So, really applaud Randy and the other board members and Kimmy and others to really, sort of roll up their sleeves to do this. And as we know, as we look down the road, while Governor Hogan may have mentioned Metro in his remarks the other day, there are structural challenges to, the Maryland Trust Fund. I mean, it is, they're financially strained. I mean, they're not going to be able to support what they have there. So you have that issue. The district is a little more straightforward, but I think we all know, politically and otherwise, Virginia is really going to be the challenge. And so whatever work Kate and others are doing to help support, an effort to have a real thoughtful conversation about how we get past our current financial structure and into a new one, whatever it looks like, it could be a whole, it could be 3 different things. So, who knows? But it's our side, I think, that is really, going to be the challenge. And we've really got to think about this carefully because, as we know, we may only have one attempt at this. And if we fail, it could be years down the road before we're able to resurrect something. So as we've seen in the past, when people were extremely supportive, but, any campaign and everything. And, honestly, I don't think Metro should necessarily be leading it. It's got to be the elected leaders like you, Walter, and Phyllis and others. It's really got to be coordinated along with business community and others. So, that's why this is so important. And it's also really, as Randy said and Kimmy said, it's really important for the internal organization as they transform and prepare for what WMATA is going to be for the next, 20, 30 years and changing and adapting to how the region is now. I mean, it's changed dramatically from, even a decade ago. I mean, look at just in our Northern Virginia area, and it's where, the growth for WMATA is right now in terms of ridership. So, we got to stay focused on that. And I also want to say, Matt, again, thank you for your kind words as well. But, Matt has really put in a lot of work as well as finance chair. And, I think, we have worked really well together and really have worked well with this committee, and really appreciate all your input because it's made us better board members. And so.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Smedberg. I really appreciate that. I'm all in on your comments on every single one. So thank you for flagging that. And Chair Randall, thank you for bringing up the need for dedicated operating support and the discussions regionally on that. So thank you. Mr. Letourneau, you want to add anything at this point?
No, the only thing I yesterday at our finance committee meeting, I kind of gave an opening statement about the budget, and I said, we're basically going to be in a budget cycle for the next year. In our jurisdictions, we have a period of time that's maybe a quarter of the year or a little more where we're focused on our budgets. We pass them, we move on for a few months before we have to start thinking about it again. I think at Metro, this coming FY24 budget has its challenges, but what we've presented and what the general manager presented is a result of an awful lot of input and a lot of work that's already been done. And so we're really probably just looking at a few things around the edges we may want to adjust. But as soon as we're through that, then the real conversation starts about FY25 with the $500 million almost deficit that only grows from there. And so I think we can't let up on that focus. We have to get buy-in from the General Assembly, from the governor, from everyone. And I think I agree completely with what Paul said. I think everybody recognizes that Virginia is going to be the most challenging place to come to that solution. So that puts, the pressure on us to try to find that. And one of the ways we're doing that is by showing what Metro can be in the short term, and fixing some of those issues that we've had, improving our service, improving ridership experiences. And I think ultimately that just helps make our case. So.
All right. Thank you very much, Matt. Any final comments, questions?
Yeah, Walter, can I just say one last thing?
Oh, yeah, please, Paul.
Yeah. I'm also mindful of the fact we still have to get through 2 legislative sessions. On the Virginia side, and you've got a new governor and a lot of new legislators coming in on the Maryland side. So we've seen one attempt already to take money from us, or sort of Northern Virginia in general, maybe not WMATA specific. Kate, what was it, 70 million? I think it was. They tried to reallocate or something along the way.
Indeed, we did get a little bit of that back, but yeah.
Yeah, but still, it was an attempt to strip some money from Northern Virginia, which we use or the jurisdictions use. Anyway, and Randy and I have done everything we can, I think, to make sure that state officials and the secretary and Jen DeBrule and others are up to date. And I'm in contact with she and Jen and others, and I know Randy is as well. So, we're doing everything we can at that level, but it's still the legislature, as we know, that controls that. And it's, not everyone thinks so kindly about Northern Virginia and Metro when they want to build roads. So.
Yes, understood. Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Smedberg. Any last comments, questions? Okay, if not, we thank you so much, WMATA team, for the presentation. It's very helpful getting us up to speed and the opportunity to provide feedback. You'll be hearing from some more of us, I think, some other questions or ideas as we move forward. So thank you very much. Ms. Randall, thank you, Chair Randall, for being here, for being a part of this as well.
Thank you, Pat.
Absolutely. And then do we have any other business before the WMATA committee? I have to ask that question. All right, I don't see any other business. And then just one last announcement. We do have another WMATA committee meeting coming up on Thursday, January 19th at 6 p.m. That one's not virtual. It's going to be in person. And at that meeting, we're going to look at reviewing the 2023 work plan for the WMATA committee, for this committee. And also we're going to be developing comments on the budget for WMATA. So fun times. Be there, be square in January. Any last issues for the committee? If not, then we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Nice seeing everyone.